All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. So I have a really cool title today. I was talking with my, I would say my business partner slash coach or business, in terms of, what we're teaching, something called principle-based planning. And so this kind of came about because I was in certain rooms, listening to some of the financial noise out there, and it was driving me crazy. So we decided we need to do a show on this, partial on this, because I already just saying that I see the room for a second show, Kyle. So I'm Mr. Kyle Christensen, the owner of Unique Advantage Advisors.
Unique Advantage.
Unique Advantage, okay. And he has a great book. So if you don't have this book, he's got a book out called Principle-Based Planning. And he's also the founder of the Personal Financial Snapshot, which is the system that we use to help our clients become financially free. So Kyle, welcome to the show, and tell him what I didn't tell him.
Thanks so much. No, I love it. And I love that we're partners, Curtis. This is great because we're partners in a cause.
Yes.
Right? Our cause is the same. We're trying to help people become financially free, teach them the principles that lead to that.
Yes. And because we just, before we start recording, that is not the goal of the financial institution, is it? People think it is, but it really isn't.
Right. And in fact, in Robert Kiyosaki's most recent book, Fake, he talks about the fact that most financial advisors are fake teachers because their goal is actually not that their clients become financially free or rich in his terminology, right? But that their goal is actually assets. Probably talked about it in other podcasts, but what do financial institutions really want us to do with our money? Are they really looking out for our best interests? And, I think most financial advisors are teaching what financial institutions want them to teach.
For sure. Because their goal, as he was saying, is assets under management. I was just having this talk with people. So if you hear the firm you're working with saying, oh, we have, $5 billion under management. Well, your goal is to be financially free or financially independent, which the way I describe it is because it's hard to reach a target you don't have. So you have to start out with the right premise if you want to get to the right destination. And so financial freedom is you want to have, here's what I call it, asset-based income that you don't have to work for and you can't outlive.
Great definition.
And so is that where you want to go? And so is what you're doing taking you there? Are you investing for capital gains? Are you trying to, what is the difference between the dairy farmer who wants to milk the cow and the cattle rancher who's raising up the calves to slaughter them, for the steak, but now you got to go back out and raise them up every year. And then so that's you saving, hoping markets go up, hoping Bitcoin goes up, sells them to create liquidity. And now you got to go back, put more money in and hope the market goes back up again. You're a cattle rancher. So you got to ask yourself what you want to be. So here is the thing. So here's what we're kind of titling this episode, and this is where our conversation is going to go, is the question is how people's natural tendencies keep them from reaching financial freedom. Okay. And so I guess the first question becomes then, Kyle, what are people's, in your opinion, natural tendency?
Well, I don't want to upset anybody.
Okay. Well, I have no problem with that, but
but the truth is people's natural tendency is to go the path of least resistance, right? To take the easiest route. I've heard actually from a bunch of people, probably Robert Kiyosaki actually, how he talked about, if criminals spent as much time learning how to make money the right way as they do trying to cheat the system, they'd be rich.
Already, right?
Yeah, they'd be already. But it's that desire, the natural desire to get something for nothing, right? the desire not to do that 4-letter word, work, right?
Right.
And it's the avoidance of it. It's the avoidance. It's actually the avoidance of all those things that it's the natural tendency to want to avoid those things that causes people to fail financially. And they become prey, right? They become prey to financial institutions. They become prey to scams, things like that.
I see so many people fall for get rich quick things because they won't take the time to learn. One of the things that we try to accomplish is that, listen, it's your. I always tell people, look, it's your money. It's not Curtis's money, and it can't be more important to me than it is to you, because our goal through our process is to educate you, and one of the goals is to help you understand the difference between facts and somebody's sales pitch through, financial literacy, the ability to read numbers, the ability to analyze things, which is financial literacy. Financial literacy is not investing. It's accounting. It's really being able to read financial statements so you can understand, so you can see the truth.
Yep.
And
that's a great point. That's a great point, because think of what's probably the most commonly used tool that financial institutions use to prey on people. It's math. They use calculators.
Yes.
They show a bigger number, right? If this guy's showing the end result's going to be $1 million and another guy's showing the result's going to be $2 million, which advisor do you choose? And of course, people choose the $2 million one, right? But math is not necessarily what the result's going to be. That money doesn't act like that.
Right.
Money is a commodity, and money. And if you read Think and Grow Rich, money follows specialized knowledge, right? That's what attracts money, is that you know something that's valuable that you can teach somebody else, that you can point somebody else the right direction. That's what money follows.
Kyle, I don't have time for that. I have this $150,000. Can you just tell me what to do? This is the stuff the pushback I get, right?
Right. And I hate to keep quoting Robert Kiyosaki, but he says that's his least favorite question.
Yeah.
That people ask him is, where should I put my money? Because he knows, and we know, that real investing isn't where you put your money. That's not what real investing is. Real investing has to do with learning, has to do with hard work at first, especially.
Right.
You got to put the blood, sweat, and tears in it, right? And then that's the investment, right? That's the real investment. It's easy to put money towards something. Think about charity work that happens in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much easier is it to throw money at something versus actually going and doing the work, spending the time?
Right. Very much easier.
Yeah. Way more people, a much higher percentage of people would rather throw money at a problem than actually go there and spend the time and actually build something, right?
I was just counseling a client yesterday. I was like, listen, just because they came in some money, like over $500,000, and I'm like, listen, just because you have it don't mean you're supposed to use it, And I said, look, the stuff you buy should be a result of your knowledge, not a substitute for it. And just throwing money at stuff. I said, listen, it's no problem with it just sitting there till you figure out something, And so what I learned from you, and I've kind of paraphrased it, but is that investing is not about buying something, it's about becoming something. Tell them what, I think I got that from you. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, we teach people that their best investment is themselves.
Yes.
Right. And the result or the risk that's involved in whatever you're investing into has everything to do with what's between your ears, and not the place where you're putting the money necessarily. Right. And in fact, the very first place that anybody should put their money, so to speak, is in their education, right?
Right.
Is in learning about it. You know, if somebody wants to become great at real estate, for example, rental properties, you know, residential real estate, guess what? There's tons of information out there that they can study and read, and they can take courses, right, from people who will mentor them. So that's the first investment. It's not actually going out and buying a property. You know, risk is very much associated with knowledge. So the less you have of it about whatever place, whatever subject you're planning on investing in, the more risk you're taking. You know, and again, it goes back to what's the natural tendencies of people. People don't want to learn something new. In all honesty, they want to do their day job, come home, relax, play with the kids, you know, go to church on Sunday, and they don't want to have to learn something else. They don't want a second job. They don't. I hear this one a lot. I don't want to fix a toilet in the middle of the night.
Right.
If fixing a toilet in the middle of the night was a pathway to financial freedom, maybe in 10 years or 15 years, versus the alternative is that you're going to work for money the rest of your life, which one would you choose?
Right. I think I'd rather be out the rat race in 10 years.
Yeah. It's okay to fix a toilet a few times in the middle of the night, right?
And if you learn a system, you won't even have to do that. Okay, which is part of investing in yourself. That's right.
Yeah. I always tell people I've been in a lot of McDonald's in my life, unfortunately. And never once have I seen the owner of the McDonald's franchise there running the business.
Ever.
No, ever.
Ever.
Never seen it. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen ever, especially initially. Most really good franchises require the owner to be involved, you know, day to day to begin with. But that's not something that they require ongoing. And that's the idea, right? Is that you really want assets working for you. You know, your capacity to continue to work for money will end at some point. It's going to end. Now, you can choose when it's going to end, right? You can have an influence on when that happens, or you can let your physical health determine it at some point.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think most people would, if they really understood the choices they're making, they would probably pay the price now, right? They'd pay the price now so that they could be free later, you know, earlier, much earlier, right?
Do you have a way? How do we help them, or if they're listening to this, you know, be aware of their decisions? You know, Jerome says that it's success is the decisions, the daily decisions that in the moment don't seem like they're a big deal, but they determine it's a few daily decisions, you know, based on philosophy that will take you on course or eventually take you off course. And what are some of this goes back to their natural tendencies, those little wrong turns that you're making that you've got to learn to fight to go in the right direction. You know, so we talked about they fall prey because they fall prey to financial institutions. They don't want to work. What are a couple other natural tendencies that you know we can just pull out for them so we can address them?
Well, another one is accountability. You know, do people want to be accountable?
Not really.
Or would they rather blame somebody else for their failure if they have a failure? I think most people would honestly blame somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't want to be the business owner. Most people don't want to be the boss, actually, right? Or the coach of the team,
Right.
because the W sure feels good, right? When you get the W, but what happens when you get the L, right?
Right.
You know, if you're willing to take the W, you also have to be willing to take the L, and most people just aren't willing to do that. But accountability is an essential ingredient to success in anything, including money, right? Accountability is an essential ingredient to success in any endeavor. why is Wall Street so popular? Why are mutual funds so popular? Because people get professional management, right, of their
Right.
money.
Mm-hmm.
They don't actually have to make the decisions, right? And Wall Street's done a great job of marketing, because what happens when a person loses half their account value, like in 2008? What do they say?
It's just a paper loss. The market will come back.
Don't sell.
Don't sell.
Don't get out. The market
Right.
always goes up over time.
Right.
Even though it took 7 years after that to even get back to even, right?
Right.
To recover what they lost in 1 year. It took 7 years to do that.
And and people don't know that, because the other thing they teach you is they want your money every payday. So you think it's going up, but it's going up partially because you're putting money in every pay. If it's in like a 401k or something. So you're still adding new money to it, which is what they want you to do.
Which appeals to the another natural tendency is, I want what's easy and convenient, right?
Right.
So when we're working with clients, a lot of times we'll ask them, what is it that you like about your 401k? Why are you contributing to your 401k? And they'll say, well, it's very convenient. They take it right out of my paycheck. Every time I get paid, I don't even see it. It's out of sight, out of mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's automatic, right? Which, think about that for a second. Saving money should be automatic, right? Saving money should be automatic. You shouldn't have to think about it. That should be a good habit that we create in our lives, right? But should investing be done unconsciously? Should investing be done with no knowledge? Not evaluating anything about the opportunity? What's the possible results of that? What do you think the potential of success is if you really don't know what you're doing and you're just buying regardless of the price?
Right.
You don't really care what the price is. I just don't see how that could possibly work out well.
Me either. I mean, it's so funny, and it's based on assumptions. Assumption number one: the market always goes up. Does it now? And if markets move up, markets move down, markets move sideways. And if you're an investor, I want you to tell me your definition of what investing is you can make money in all three. So if you're just buying and holding and you hope the market goes up, hope A is not a good strategy. And B, you only make money if in one way, if the market goes up.
Yeah.
And
I mean, think about real estate. Think about real estate. There's several ways that you make money in real estate, right? One is through cash flow from the property, positive cash flow from the property. Another one is depreciation from the original purchase price. And then the last one is through appreciation. Of those three, which one is the most risky? It's the
appreciation, right?
Yeah, it's the one you don't know. You're basing that on hope. Now, the nice thing is real estate appreciates with inflation generally, right? It benefits from inflation. So it's a pretty good bet, right, that you're going to have that. Does Walmart necessarily go up with inflation? Does the value of Walmart stock? No.
No.
Not tied to that. Okay, so what financial institutions are trying to get us to focus on is the most risky part of an investment, which is the appreciation. We're hoping for that, right? And and the cash flow, like you had said earlier, financial institutions are the ones that want the cash flow. They don't want the client to get the cash flow.
Right.
That's the big secret. That's what assets under management is. That's the big conflict of interest, right? Is that everybody who's managing assets in the stock market, their true intent is that their client never touches their money. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
They actually have a financial loss if the person takes money out. So they don't ever really want them to.
They don't even want you to get your dividends if you have any. They want those reinvested. I mean, they want to keep it forever. And automatic dividend drip plans, right? All that stuff is to keep your money in their coffers. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the business model. So I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm just saying, listen, they have an agenda, and you need to have your own agenda and your own strategy, and because you need their financial products, but you don't have to use them the way they're telling you.
Yep. We don't have to play the game that they want us to play.
Right. And that is critical. But that goes back to well, Curtis told me to read a book. Man, I don't like reading. I don't, that's the other pushback I get. It's like, dude, listen, it's your money and it's not mine. So if you can't read a couple of books so that you can get more in control, I'm probably not a good person for you to work with.
I think if people really evaluated their choices like you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
if they said, look, I don't like reading a book, right? But I agree that knowledge is what empowers people, and it's what brings the fortune, like Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich, right? That's what attracts the fortune, is that you know something. Okay. If they evaluated the pain of reading versus the pain of being totally dependent on the government at some point in time in the future,
Mm-hmm.
which pain would you rather have? Because this is the false idea, right? That there's a pain-free approach. Right? There is no pain-free approach. Okay. And which one is painless? Right? Which one causes less ultimately? And that's actually the hard work. It's the going to it. A great book that I read recently called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday talks about that. He says, look, throughout history, it's been proven time and time again that generally the best results and the best way is the one that's the obstacle is in front of you, right? You have to overcome an obstacle to get there. And that's actually what causes you to become stronger. Think about that in terms of sports, or getting stronger physically. If you lift a pencil instead of a dumbbell that's 40 pounds, who's going to get stronger? Right. The one lifting the 40-pound dumbbell.
Yeah, I mean, even when you look at like basketball, take The Last Dance. Because we're both basketball players, fans, but when Jordan kept losing to the Bulls, when he had his personal trainer, he had to get stronger mentally and physically to take that beating and overcome that obstacle, and that's ultimately what led them past that to win 3 straight championships, because they got stronger. They couldn't just wilt, and they had to get better. And so as you look out there with your lives, you've got to get stronger. You've got to get better. I'm reading the 12-week year. You're fine. You'll be on the phone with us or talk to us. You're going to get 3 books. Just get your pencils out, right? And so my operating system is the 12-week year, right? So every quarter, it's really a year, 12 weeks to a year. And I've set new goals, areas I want to get better at, areas I want to learn and get stronger and grow professionally, grow our businesses, and so on and so forth. And because what people do is I'm kind of adding this to people. So as they go through our snapshot and we look at their, in our system, principle 5 is velocity of money. So I'm kind of like challenging them to look at growing business income and investment income in a 90-day lens, so that you're focusing on what am I doing to make this grow? Because you have to be intentional about it. I tell people, you don't just wander around and end up on the top of Mount Everest. You got to think about it. You got to plan for it. You got to have base camp, and it's a plan to get up there, and you got a plan to come back down. That's where most people die, right? So, but you have to do that. And I think you have to view money and your business, which is your number one investment, by the way, in the same light.
Absolutely. In fact, that just makes me think, as you're talking about using each quarter basically as a year, viewing it that way, and then creating new goals each quarter. Number one, that's related to the small and simple steps, right?
Yeah.
The small and simple changes that we make in our life that makes actually a huge difference at the end of the day,
right,
that you kind of talked about earlier. When we talk about it, it's an interesting thing in the personal financial planning world. people in our industry create 20 and 30-year plans, right? They're obsolete the day that they're made.
The ink,
right?
the ink is dry. It's already out of it, right?
It's outdated. And here's the thing: businesses don't operate that way. No business does a 20-year plan. No business does a 30-year plan. They do 1-year plans. They do quarterly, like you're doing, Curtis. You know, they do it's smaller steps. They're actionable, right? Small steps are actionable, and you can be held accountable to it. You can measure the progress. Bob Castellone, who founded Leap, okay, the Leap system, he said that the best financial plan that can exist is as close to perfect 1-year plans as you can get. Just
I never heard that.
Just do a great 1-year plan, and then another great 1-year plan, and another great 1-year plan, right? Focused on efficiency. And if you do that, you're going to be in the best position you can possibly be in the future. Okay. The problem with the 20 and 30-year plan is how much room for error is there? How much room for mistakes on predictions? And
there's none. And by the time you find out you're wrong, it's too late.
Right. Especially because the people who promote those plans tell you up front, they kind of got built-in excuses, right? Well, the market goes up and down, don't worry about it. Don't look at your 401k.
Past performance doesn't account for future performance.
Yeah, and it's asset allocation, right? And diversification. We just need to diversify better, which is the opposite of specialized knowledge.
Right. Or to talk beat on a product right now. I've been in this thing called Clubhouse, these rooms, and these guys are talking about, index universal life and talking about the projections, right? And or the promise. And I heard a guy on there saying, do you want promises? Or do you want guarantees? Right? Because the guy was telling me about all the stuff that, well, if it's not funded right, this could go wrong and that could go wrong. Really? Is that what you want to build your financial future on a foundation of promises and hope to, and again, math, projections?
Yep. And the only thing right about projections and illustrations is that they're all wrong.
Right.
They're all wrong. They're never going to be that number in the future.
That's what, it's so funny because that's what financial people want to tout, and they're just beating each other up. And it's like, that's not the most important thing. It's really more your behavior than some projection.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. It's so much more about how you use the tools than the tools themselves. Right. It's how you use the tools.
Any other thing that we're
I did. I thought of one more tendency, and that is our desire for comfort.
Come on.
Okay. We love to be comfortable, right? We get to a place, I mean, even successful people fall into this, right? They get to a stage or a level of success and they plateau. Why do they plateau? It's because they get comfortable. Right. And they get complacent when they get comfortable, and they relax and they let their guard down and they stop learning. Right. So comfort, for all your listeners, comfort is the enemy of progress in your life. Okay. If you find yourself being comfortable, then that also means you're being stagnant. Okay, and everybody knows what a stagnant pool of water looks like, right? Over time, everybody's had one of those somewhere in their neighborhood, or in their yard even maybe, right? What happens with a stagnant pool of water? Well, the mosquitoes, grow there, and it starts to smell bad, and it gets discolored, and it's nasty, and you just want to get it. It's not a nice feature, right? And compare that to what's progress. When you think about progress, the imagery you should probably have in your mind is a crystal clear stream, rolling down the Rocky Mountains, right? Or the Appalachians or whatever, right? But it's coming down and it's moving, and the reason it stays so perfectly clear is because it's moving. Right? There's an analogy in there for us, right? That we can benefit from. that as long as we keep moving, as long as we don't get comfortable and stagnant, then we'll progress and we'll reach higher heights, right? Especially when it comes to money. I mean, this goal of, hey, I just want to be comfortable. I don't want to work. I don't want to fix a toilet in the middle of the night. I don't want to have to learn something new. Those are enemies to your progress. Those are the reasons why you won't reach financial freedom. Okay, if you let those win, if you let those desires, those natural desires win, then you'll never reach financial freedom, because financial freedom has to be won, right? You have to win that. It doesn't get handed to anybody. You know, most people who inherit wealth, guess what happens to it?
They lose it.
They lose it. Most people who win the lottery end up in worse shape than before they won the lottery. Okay, so you got to learn the principles that help you win, right? And then follow them and be willing to work. You know, be willing to put the work in. There's no easy path.
I was thinking when you said that I had another point, but it's the same point. In one of my favorite books, Become Your Own Banker, Nelson calls it, but I think it's the same thing, the arrival syndrome.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as comfort, or you feel like you've arrived and you're complacent. And so when you think you know it all, that's a problem. And the other thing is financial independence has to be won. Right. And I think that, and maybe you can speak to this, how do you know if you're winning? See, because if you have $1 million in a 401k, how do you know if you've won? Because I don't think you have one, right?
Yeah.
And so, you haven't won there. So, because you don't know, I mean, you're still, because you're afraid you're gonna run out of money.
Well, that's the thing, with a 401k, here's the reality. And it's really not just the 401k, it's anything related to the accumulation method, right? Of wealth building. You never know when you've gotten there. You never know when you're financially free. How much is enough? Is it $1 million?
Right.
Depends, right? What's $1 million going to be worth 15, 20 years from now?
Right.
Is it $2 million? It isn't that. You think about businesses. If I went outside and went to 100 businesses here in San Antonio and talked to 100 business owners and said, hey, do you know the value of your business? The probability is that none of them really know the value of their business unless they're in the process of trying to sell it, right? But most of them don't know that. What do they know? What do they know to a T? Probably down to the very dollar.
Right. They know how much they made that day, that week, that month, that quarter.
They know the revenue. Yeah. They know the revenue.
Yeah.
And the revenue, the cash flow, is what matters. It's not the value of the business that matters. It's not the value of your portfolio that matters. What matters is what can that produce? Okay. And if it's never produced anything, which certain products like a 401k are designed not to do, right? They're designed not to produce cash flow. Then you never know. And who benefits from you not knowing when you have enough?
The institution.
Yeah. It is by design, it is on purpose that that's promoted that way, that it doesn't produce cash flow, that you really can never know when it's going to be done.
How do they know if they're winning, in your opinion?
I think it has to do with getting real assets, right? An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. If you have what you think are called assets and you have no income that's coming in from them, then they're probably not really an asset.
That's right.
And
at least not a good one. As
yeah.
Kiyosaki would say, at least not a good one.
So. Yeah, you can identify. So that's the first step, right, into knowing what's your progress. The first step is, am I investing in assets or am I investing in doodads and liabilities, right? Doodads are things that, have no value, honestly, other than you use them once and they're gone. Kind of like eating out at a restaurant, right? You use it. Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that people shouldn't enjoy life and do those things, but don't confuse what they are, right? That's the first step, is to know, to be able to identify what's an asset, what's a liability, and what's a doodad, right?
Right.
If people spend all of their money on doodads, they're never going to create assets, right? They're never going to have assets that are producing income. If they are confusing liabilities with assets, which financial institutions want you to do, right? They want you to confuse that. Then you're going to get a lot of liabilities that you think are assets, and you'll never know when you win the game. Okay. You can measure your progress when you get assets. When you get assets, they produce cash flow, and you know what you need to live on right now,
Right.
your income right now. We're not talking 20 years or 30 years down the road. What is your lifestyle based on today? How much income would you have to have in order to support your lifestyle right now? That's how you can measure.
Right.
What's the
So you
income
have
that
to
I'm getting
measure
from
it.
my
See,
assets?
so when you're looking at that, you know, one of the things that we take people through is, what does your life cost? And, you know, to maintain your current standard of living. And so if it's 5,000 and then you have to work for money. But let's say if you have, let's just say rentals, because a lot of people like real estate, and you got 2 rentals generating $500 a month, that's 1,000. So what do you need? Now you got a target. So when your assets can equal your income, now you're getting there. So if you're still working, what you can do is create compounding effect of your savings, right? Because you can now eventually you can get to the point where your assets are producing more cash flow or equal to where you're like, so you're saving $1,000 a month from your earned income. Let's say we teach, save 15% of your income. But now what should you do with that new money? Is it time to go shopping? No. Okay. Well, it's so that you can compress your time frame so you can get out of the rat race in 3 years or 5 years or what your goal is. But Kyle, it's hard to reach a target you don't have if you're not like thinking like, here's my target, here's how I win this game. That's what I think of when you say that.
Yeah. Great way to think about it.
And that's what we focus on, teaching people. I want to hear it. I say this, but I want to hear it from you. So because there's 2 schools of thought in the financial world. You know, you've alluded to the accumulation theory. And then there's a second way, which is the velocity method. Tell them what the difference is and what they should be thinking about, and what we help people think about through our principle-based planning method.
So I think the easiest way to understand it is to think of what the financial institutions want us to do with our money, right? They want us to do, and to think about how that compares to what the financial institutions themselves actually do. Okay. So what they want us to do is they want us to give them our money on a regular and ongoing basis, right? Every time we get paid, systematically, automatically, unconsciously, right? And then they want to hold it as long as possible. And whenever I ask a client, if I usually put them in the scenario and I say, hey, if you owned a bank and I was your customer, how long would you want to hold on to my money? And what do they always say?
Forever.
Forever. Okay. That is their true intent, is that they hold on to it forever. So is it possible or even probable that financial institutions are creating products and promoting products and strategies heavily, right, that help them accomplish that goal? Do you think that that's probable?
Probable is putting it lightly, but yes.
Yeah. I think it's a lot closer to certain.
Certain, right?
Okay. And so think about this. Banks and financial institutions, they encourage us to put money into an account, and I won't name which one. You guys will know what it is. They encourage us to put money into an account where we can't touch it. We voluntarily submit ourselves to penalties if we touch our money, right? Before the end date, right? And the end date is this magic number, 59 and a half years old, right? You can't touch that money till 59 and a half years old. So if we're talking to a 30-year-old who, you know, the common wisdom in the financial world is that they should be contributing to this kind of account, they're not going to touch their money for almost 3 decades. Okay. Is there anything else that a financial institution would rather us do than give them control and use of our money for 3 decades?
No, I can't think of a thing.
No. Now let's flip the script, and let's think of it from a financial institution standpoint. Would a financial institution ever put their money into something that doesn't produce cash flow on purpose? Okay, doesn't produce cash flow for 3 decades. They give up control for 3 decades. They don't get use of it for 3 decades. Would a financial institution ever do that?
No.
No. Okay. And an interesting little side note, they tell us to focus on compounding interest, right? In these accounts. Isn't that what they tell us to focus on?
Yes.
Well, liabilities to us are assets to financial institutions, right? And a prime example of that is a mortgage. So on a mortgage, it's a liability to me because I'm paying money away from me. The direction of the cash flow is going away from me. I'm paying interest, right? Who's receiving that interest?
The bank.
The bank. It's an asset on their books, right? The cash flow is flowing to them. Now, if compounding interest was really valuable, if that was the main goal, then why do most financial institutions pretty much as soon as they set up a mortgage, sell it? Why do they sell the mortgage? Because they put it together, they package it, and then a few months later, they sell that to a bunch of investors. Okay, why do they do that? If interest rate is so important, compounding interest, that's what they're getting with the loan.
Right.
Why wouldn't they keep it?
Because they want velocity.
Yeah, yeah, they want velocity. They don't really care about the compounding interest. They don't care about the interest at all, actually. What they want is the money back. And how fast do they want the money back?
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible, because then what are they going to do again?
Put it out, right back out, and do the same thing.
Yep, exactly. But now they have more money, right, to do it with. So they're going to do that over and over again. That's what velocity of money is, getting more than one use out of the money. So the more uses I get out of the same dollar throughout my lifetime, the greater the velocity, right? And, again, Robert Kiyosaki, you're going to think I'm just like he's the main man in my life. But Robert Kiyosaki said in one of his books, he said, I'm much more concerned about the velocity of my money than the rate of return. And now hopefully your listeners know what that means, right? Is that it just means he wants his money back as soon as possible so that he can deploy it again, right? Again and again and again. And that's actually what creates wealth. That's what makes our economy healthy. And that's what makes our personal economy healthy as well.
Because and here's the funny thing, you can't control the economy, but you can control your personal economy, which is your production and consumption as a household unit. And that's what you've got to learn how the economic principles are the same, whether you're making $50,000 a year or $50 million a year. The velocity method, it doesn't matter what you make. The principles are the same. It's just a question of, do you want to adopt those principles? Because success leaves clues. So if you start, one of the things that we try to identify and what we both, Kyle and I talk about is and you kind of extract, well, how are people winning? If you look at the Forbes 400, are they worried about the magic of compound interest? They build businesses and they buy real estate and they do paper, but they don't do paper like you do paper. They're not tying money up for 30 years.
Right.
And so though there are ways, if you care to learn them, to do what they do. And but you've got to be, as you're hearing this, you've got to say, well, okay, what are those ways? And you stop looking for like trick plays, or some Hail Mary that will, there's no financial product that exists no one financial product that exists that will take you to glory financially.
Absolutely. And just recognizing, those natural tendencies that, we all have them, right? Everybody has those natural tendencies. We like comfort, right? Everybody likes that stuff. But just know that can't lead you to success. If if that's the driving force, right? If you're doing something because it's convenient, if you're doing something because it's easy, if you're doing something because you don't have to be accountable, that's not going to lead to long-term success. I mean,
Right.
I don't think anybody believes that.
In anything, that's not going to work.
Right.
And so you got to ask yourself, you got to check your thinking. Hopefully what we're doing with this is we're getting you to check your paradigm and kind of question, because a lot of people just get lulled into complacency, into sleep. I get up, I go to work. Now you're lulled into, I got to get up, I got to put my mask on, I got to, all of this stuff, and you don't question stuff. And so that is never good. I don't care in any context. You got to, research and study. You got to, so I'm going to keep this some money. I'm not going to go there. And, but but you got to be involved and you have to think.
Yep.
And most people don't want to think. And that's not going to lead to success.
Right.
And I had a client I was talking to the other day. This person is a very successful, really owns tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate. And I said, mutual funds don't earn compound interest. She goes, what? I says, what do you mean? Says they appreciate and they depreciate, but they don't earn compound interest. Okay. And the assumption that people who sell this stuff show you the rule of 72, and then they'll slap a mutual fund prospectus in front of you. Say our fund did X, 14% last year, or it's averaged 17% over the last 5 years. That doesn't mean anything. Again, that's math.
Yep, that's right.
That has nothing to do with your money. And so you have to, it's hard to win a game when you don't know the rules.
Yep.
And most people are played by the wrong rules, or they don't know the rules at all. And you're not going to win that game. And so what Kyle and I do is we're trying to teach you the rules. I get when it boils down to it, people say, what do you do? I'm a financial education. I'm trying to teach people how money works.
Yep.
And
that's right.
And so now, Kyle, as we wind down, appreciate your time today. So you have let's talk about the book, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And or in snapshot if you want to, but let's talk about the book. What is principles-based planning?
Well, it's just a whole different approach to financial planning. For whatever reason, if you took business finance in college, you'd learn about economics.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take personal financial planning in college and you study that and you become a certified financial planner, then you don't look at economics at all. All of a sudden it's math. It's all calculations and compounding interest, right? And you throw out all of the rules, all of the principles that you learn in business finance, you throw those out because they, for whatever reason, apparently don't apply to individual or personal finance. And that's baloney, right? So what's being done and what has been done is historically math and predictions or computations of future values has been used to sell financial products. And that's called needs analysis, and that's a part of the accumulation theory. By far the majority, right? Outside of the people who are using our system, I don't really know very many people, maybe just a handful, who are teaching people the principles that actually the economic principles.
They do pieces of it, but nobody does the whole thing that I found.
Yeah, and there is no book out there, right, outside of mine that actually teaches the whole concept, right? That kind of picks apart also the accumulation theory. So that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book, honestly, it was for financial advisors. My goal is to help change how financial planning is done. And, the accumulation theory, we've already seen it. I mean, 401k has been around since the 1970s and needs-based planning even before that. So, it's not working. We're not seeing record numbers of people becoming financially free. What we're seeing is record numbers of people becoming dependent on the government and saying that Social Security income is a major source of retirement income. Unless that's your goal, unless your goal is to become dependent, then this book is pretty valuable, I think, for you to read.
Even if I'm not an advisor.
That's right.
Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure. So, because what we both do is we implement it with our clients and then we are training. And it's sometimes like pulling teeth, isn't it? Training advisors to look, do you just want to push products or really want to help your clients become financially free? And it's hard
Well, you bring up a
sledding
good point.
sometimes. Mm-hmm.
You bring up a good point because actually the most resistance we get on this philosophy is not the clients.
No.
The clients actually already believe these principles that
Yeah.
we talk to. They
Yeah.
believe it. They just haven't been taught these, and so it's a breath of fresh air when we talk to them and we say, "Okay, principle number 1," and they're like,
Or
"Oh,
we're confirming what they've been thinking, but
that's
they
right.
didn't really have
Yeah,
anybody to verify that. So if I'm talking to a
exactly.
business owner or you're a real estate investor and I'm telling you your best investment is in you and what you understand and not to set up a daggone solo 401k or a SEP or send money to somebody else's business that you don't control, that you don't own, that you don't understand. And if I say that to you out loud, you go, yeah, you're right. But if you're making a lot of money, you'll have these people calling on you, telling you this is what you're supposed to do, and
Right.
everybody else is doing it, so you do it. But it's really detrimental. It's toxic for you and
Very,
your business.
very much. And that's the thing. That's why we get resistance more on the advisor side,
Yeah.
right? Advisors who have been in the industry, right, for decades, right? They have been ingrained from day one this accumulation theory and needs analysis, and there has been no competing philosophy, right? They have a monopoly, right,
Right.
on financial planning, and it's just at this point it's conventional wisdom, which
Right.
conventional wisdom means you just don't question it, Curtis. You just do what we tell you,
Right.
right?
Right.
You put your money in your 401k at least up to the match, and you do this and you do that, and you're not supposed to be asking questions, about that and debating. It's a foregone conclusion, right, in their minds.
That's right.
And so here we are. We're now contesting these philosophies, and they know when we talk to them, they know that we're right. They even agree with it, but they have a hard time getting rid of or unlearning all the stuff that they've been taught for however many decades, right?
Well, and that's where your bread is buttered, right? So if
Yeah.
you're getting the majority of your money and you've got $10 million under management and you're getting fees every month, well, you're not going to cut off your nose to spite your face. So it's really hard uh, for people to do that.
Yep, it is. But at the end of the day, our job is to do what's right for our clients. And if our real objective is to help them become financially free, how could you not accept this path? How could you not at least explore it?
Right. Right. That's what I was brought up in that method, all about accumulation theory, needs analysis, the whole thing. And my term investor difference, I was evangelical about that. to put it lightly. So I was like Dave Ramsey on steroids. And then it took me literally at least 4, 5, 6 years to kind of let that go as I was, beginning to learn the genesis of what we're talking about. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 1999, and then it took me that decade to put it together. And I would say that what we've done with this process is kind of make that methodology standardized, where we could go, step 1, we do this, step 2, we have our 5 principles of personal finance, and now we give you a map to reinforce what how to think, how to create a good foundation. And then your job is to make yourself rich, because investing is not about buying something, it's about becoming something. But we are laying the foundation so that you should get better. Your personal economy should get more efficient every year. If you just screw up, it should still get better the way we structure it. And then now you can do really good things. Kyle, here's what I want to end with this, because this was very profound to me. So without naming names, I told somebody this story of this art strategy in action with a client of yours that had a I'm talking about the dental
Yep.
practice. And so I want to end with that. And so when we talk about investing, you are your number one investment. I want to really give them a tangible what's the word, case study.
Yeah. So, I mean, so this client became my client very shortly after he bought into his first practice. And so out of dental school, buys into his first practice after working for a couple of years for somebody else. Has this huge debt load, right? Scary. I mean, they've never had this kind of debt in their lives. You know, and I started meeting with him pretty soon after that. And you know, we taught him the principles. And like you said, we teach these same principles regardless of how much money you make or how much money you have, because the principles are true regardless of the circumstance. Okay.
Right.
And so I taught him the principles, and he was, you know, not too smart for himself, right? Some people are too smart for themselves and they're not willing to learn, right? They have the arrival syndrome, right? They've already learned everything. So he was coachable, and that's really who an ideal client for us, you know, and I'll speak for you too, Curtis, if you don't mind, that our ideal client is somebody who's coachable, somebody who wants to learn. You know, other advisors out there are saying, well, I don't want to work with somebody unless they have $500,000 in assets or $1 million in assets and they make X amount of money. You know, that's not our criteria. Our criteria is if they're coachable, if they're willing to learn, then they can become financially free.
Right.
And we can play a small role, right, in that whole process. And we love that. So that's what this client did. And as we went along, he implemented some of the strategies that fit with the principles, right?
Right.
One of those was he got whole life insurance, right? As a part of his protection and liquidity strategy. Notice I didn't say investment strategy.
Right.
That wasn't his investment.
Whole life properly structured. Let's, you know
Yep.
what I mean? And so for cash accumulation.
Yep.
And okay.
So they funded it. They had been overfunding it, you know, with paid up additions, growing the cash value. And in 2019, towards the end of 2019, they called me up and they said, hey, we're looking into this coaching program and it's going to cost us $280,000. Okay. And this is to help them improve their practice, right? To learn techniques and skills and knowledge to be able to improve their practice, their dental practice. Prior to that investment that they decided to do, they were making around, I mean, they were pretty successful already, about $400,000 to $500,000 of revenue that he got to keep, you know, positive cash flow from the business to himself. They were thinking of borrowing the $280,000 from a bank. And I reminded them and I said, hey, why not use your cash value? That's what the purpose of that is, you know, to invest in yourself, right? In these things. And that's the real investment, is investing in yourself. And that's exactly what they were doing. So they decided to do that. They took out $280,000 in a policy loan, paid for this coaching practice in 1 year. In 1 year, they more than doubled their income from the dental practice. And he went from, he had a couple other associate doctors working for him prior to the investment, and now he has 4 dentists working for him in the practice, and he just paid cash for another office in another location. Okay, and so that was all from that one investment. So $280,000 turned into, just in cash, just in revenue for him, more than $500,000 additional income. So he got 100%, more than 100% return, almost
right.
200%.
So now he's cash flowing just to make over $1 million a year.
Yep, per year.
Every year going forward, right?
Yep.
Now so now he's learned some stuff. So now he's bought another asset, and now he's got the knowledge. So can he take that knowledge from last year's coaching program and implement it into the new asset he just bought?
Absolutely. And in fact, another little piece of the puzzle is that he's going to sell part of his current practice. How crazy is that? So he's going to sell part of his current practice, which will allow him to expand even further and buy more locations. And
So he's
you know,
getting back some of his capital so he can
capital.
spread it
Yep.
out and create more velocity by creating more locations.
Yep. But he's investing in, think about all of our topic for the whole for today's conversation, right? The people's natural tendencies. Were they willing to work hard? Were they willing to invest in themselves? Right? Were they willing to be accountable? You know, were they willing to be uncomfortable? Right? Think about that.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. That's uncomfortable. Writing
It is
stroking a check for
uncomfortable.
almost 300 grand for coaching.
Yeah. How many people are willing to shell that
I
out?
did that
Right?
for 10,000. I don't think I told my wife for a month.
That's why you're still married.
Right. but the same thing happened with my business. I've almost tripled our revenue just from getting better at what I was doing.
Yep. So it's a great real life example, and it's, the good thing is that's not the exception. That's actually the rule if people follow what we're teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the rule, folks. So success leaves clues. You don't need to run trick plays. You do have to, to want to take you and your spouse, taking your finance seriously. And then if you're hearing this, and because somebody asked me that, well, who do you work with? You want people with a lot of money? No, I just need them to be coachable. I need them to have some income because I can't steer a parked car. I'm not a magic worker. But, if they have some income, they're coachable. I want them to love their family. I want them to be friendly and serious about their money. So if you fit that criteria, call me. Okay. I don't care if you're a college student and you make 30 grand a year. If you can save 10 to 15% of your income, I can help you, because you're going to grow. And matter of fact, I like to get you there because you got a lot of years in front of you to get better, to work on your game. I call it work on your knowledge, get better at your career. And you're just going to you can have a great life. And if you're 30, what do I want? I want you to be done by 40 or less, win the game. If you can do that if you set that. No, I'm promising that, but because I don't know if you're going to work or not, but it's beats the heck out of 65, and the 40-year plan is 65, which is everybody else is teaching you to do. So we want you to think differently. One of my principles, Kyle, is that the majority is usually wrong. You know what I mean? That's a principle. 98% of the financial world teaches the accumulation theory, and then we see the results of that. Most people couldn't come up with $1,000 if they had an emergency. If somebody, you walked out your door and all four of your tires were slashed, most people would have a hard money writing a check for that. You'd have to put it on a credit card, and it's debt, right? And now, what is debt? A future obligation. But the only way you have to pay for it is with money you have yet to earn, right? That is where the trap that people are in. I call it the debt paradigm. So hopefully this has been helpful, Kyle. Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. We should do this once a month. Actually, I'm thinking of this. And so any closing thoughts for people as we go? I'm gonna let you take us home.
No, I hope people realize that they have a choice. I think everybody wants to feel like they have a choice in where they're going to end up, right? And you absolutely do. You have a choice, okay? And these principles that we're talking about, they're not new principles. I didn't make them up myself. We put them together for a planning process that doesn't exist. Outside of what we're doing, it doesn't exist. So, our job is to help facilitate your learning and to help you get to a point where you can feel like, hey, I'm empowered and I feel like I can make the right choices. I can evaluate choices. I can evaluate the difference between an asset and a liability and make better choices because of that. That's our goal, is to make sure that you guys feel like you have a choice in where you end up. And if you want to be financially free, you can be financially free. And we can teach you how to get there. And for people who think that they want to be an advisor or maybe are advisors and they're listening to this podcast, if you want to learn this system, reach out to us, reach out to Curtis. He'll point you the right direction. Go to principles or go to personalfinancialsnapshot.com. Reach out to us, and we're happy to teach you. That our goal is to make this a movement, right?
Yeah.
To change how financial planning is done, and I think it will. I think it's going to be a great success.
There you go. And you can get the book from Amazon and anywhere else you want to send them, or is it Amazon?
Amazon. Yep.
Okay.
Amazon, and it's you can do ebook or a physical book. I like the physical book because we're in front of computer screens all day in our lives right now.
Right.
So.
And so my book is all marked up. I've got tabs in it. It's highlighted, and it's so when I give people a book, if it's too clean, I'm like, you haven't read this book yet. Go back and this is too clean. I do book inspection. So or even with Zoom, I hold your book up. Let me see it. Hey, yeah, you ain't read this. Go back and read it again.
Yeah.
And so guys, Kyle, thank you so much. And so go reach out to the book. And if you want to hear this, we take people, you can actually go to my site, practicalwealthadvisors.com, and schedule an appointment. We will, I'll send you a little video on what we call the 5 principles of personal finance. And then we'll talk about making sure you're a good fit to help us, take you on the path to financial freedom, because that's where everything we're trying to do is designed to take you towards, right? And so thanks for listening. Listen, like, and share this episode with your friends and family, and leave us a great, what's the word? Not testimonial, but review on on iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll see you next week. Go out there and be prosperous. Have a great day, everybody.